Wow, great hair, Lacey. It's sexy. I went out in the rain last night because I was like, I am. Well, first of all, I'm like, what would it feel like to not to just have to take a shower and just pure rainwater? Obviously, I had my swimsuit on, but went for a walk last night in the dark and I got wet. And then I went to bed like so, and this is how my hair naturally dries. But anywho, um, you guys can sit here and figure out, or and wait for me to figure out why I'm making this video. So I am. I was going over like some of my what I call daily instructions for myself, or like what I'm gonna do, and I'm trying to do a like a detox or like a fast, mostly just detoxing from sugar. And I'm gonna try and do a 25-day juice fast, but I know you're not supposed to tell like the world your goals, but that's what I want to do. I want to do it, and hopefully I can do it. If not, I'm not going to beat myself up for it, but I do definitely want to get rid of white sugar and yeah, kind of rebalance. I'm stuck in this. I'm not stuck. I obviously put myself here, but I put myself here to feel comfortable financially in this little trailer. This is way better than my other one. Until my next paycheck, or until I have to, till I have to drive back to. Well, I'm not gonna tell you that shit. Either way, I'm here for at least until the beginning of August, probably a little bit afterwards. So I'm gonna try and do like 25 days of like a fast, like mostly trying to just drink at least celery juice every morning, and again, completely annihilating or eliminating white sugar, and limiting my intake of sugar to like maybe 12 to 14 grams a day instead of like the 23 grams of white sugar that the FDA is apparently, or is you're allowed to have, which I don't I think that's maybe like for stressful situations, so your brain your brain can continue like working, but and again, I know our whole society is just stressed out all the time. Either way, it's a third day in, and I'm just like thinking to myself, like, oh, what am I gonna do today? Or like, what do I have to get done? I have a bunch of stuff I have to get done, but I was like, I I say these things in my head sometimes where I was like, I was talking to myself. That's the other thing I want to kind of work on is like putting the thoughts to rest, working on meditation, because I'm terrible at it. And I guess you're not supposed to be good at it. You're just, I don't know. I just don't. Let's put that aside. I was talking to myself in my head. Because when you're by yourself, you do that sometimes to keep yourself sane and not bored. And I was like, yeah, that's some 1950s psychopathy shit. And I was like, it's 1950s psychopathy shit. And I was like, whoa, I'm onto something there, because like I was comparing myself to some 1950s psychopathy shit because I didn't want to deal with like the overwhelming sense of all the emotions that come through with dealing with the present moment in my reality. All the old hurts, pain, past trauma, everything that comes up when you're focusing in on yourself and trying to care for yourself. And I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to, like, I was like, oh god, what is this gonna change? Like, like all those thoughts that come in, and I'm like, yeah, it's some 1950s psychopathy shit. And in 1950s, like the 40s, 50s, after the World War, the whole society, a whole group of people, like a population of people, didn't want to deal or couldn't deal or didn't know how to deal or didn't understand that they had to deal with the trauma of what happened in World War II. So you have a whole society that evolved around attaining material things, aka baby boomers, and everything to not deal with what's going on in here. Because it was so, like, shameful and so hurtful and so every single thing, the whole society was based on doing that. Our society, my grandma's generation. My grandma's okay. She's a little nuts. I will say that. She is kind of nuts, but she's very cognizant. Oh, she's cognizantly aware for her age. She does drink a lot, but I won't say that on camera. Anyways, yeah, well, she grew up during that generation or whatever. Either way, everything was based off of survival and social survival. And it's different now this time because it's social survival tactics. Like, oh, what's Marcy doing with a new, like, dresser for her living room? Or, oh, what's Mary doing with her husband or some dude at 3 o'clock in the morning? Like, everything, all the whole community was based off of, like, this social integral, like, it was almost integral because it was fear-based to keep going. Like, it was get ahead of the other person. It was competition. And all these things aren't said out front to you in the 1950s. They're just there. They're present. And they weren't addressed. And it was all packed away into people's, like, old psyche. And then it passed down through generations. Holy fuck. And then on top of that, if people that don't deal with that, then you continuously, like, the society keeps repeating itself, obviously, and then there's trauma after trauma after trauma, because now that's the established baseline. Also, mind you, in between that time, actually, between the 1930s and the 1950s, I'll go as far as to, like, the 1920s was a time of psychopathy. Like, and so, like, that was the general theme. Actually, not the general theme, but, like, the unaddressed darker theme that was actually going on. Everything is like, oh, the booming 20s, oh, the depressing 30s, and the, like, fucked up 40s with the war, and then there's the 50s. Where it was just completely, like, everything we gotta do in society is to survive, like, no matter what. And it was backstabbing. It really was. Don't ask me how I know it. I just know. Based on, like, where we are today. And then my mom's generation. Well, I mean, then you had the 60s. The 60s was, like, some people were starting to become aware of and wanted to change. And then you had the not the World War, but then you had the Vietnam War, which was a whole nother level of fucked up. Just a whole nother level. Gotta drink my juice. But yeah, I think 1950s was the worst because there is nothing really, there is no world war, or there was no wars except for the Korean War. And that's kind of like almost the forgotten war. I remember reading about that in in school, it was the forgotten war. Everybody forgot about the Korean War. It's actually like an important part of our society today, and at least in American politics. But nobody was like really focused on that because they were just I don't want to say like so traumatized, but they're just so almost forced, psychologically forced, because also at that time you're dealing with people that were running society, or much like today, just in a different way, but we're running society and we're so dark and use very dark, deep, dark manipulation tactics to get the people like away from their center point. Maybe at some maybe it was never really found truly, and I don't think you can ever really find your center point or your heart in like the themes of society even today. But there are communities and groups, and there are energies where you can kind of like follow along with, and you can start to find your path a little bit better. But it's still you. You're still doing it. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about that. The 1950s psychopathy. How is that affecting our world today? I can tell you that I'm looking back at my history. Again, I'm gonna be like focused in on myself for the next 25 days or so. I plan on doing this. I currently don't have a day job. I have an income, but just a day job. So there's nothing else I can do except focus on myself and work through this shit. Work through my shit, not this shit. It's not mine. But yeah. What was I saying? Anyways, so I'm just gonna update people on that. And what in your life is making you think of 1950s psychopathy? What is the origin of that? Thank you. Have a good day.